Now let's start. So I want to talk about how to improve our seed potato yield. We are going to see our last seed multiplication result in Astore, and I want to give you some suggestions. But my suggestions will not be great because I'm not an expert of potato, as you know. So it will be very pleasure if you share your ideas after this presentation, because you all are the potato experts. So this is the information of Astore multiplication. You can also check the handout later. In this information, I'm going to focus on some factors that we can improve for the next cultivation, which are sowing dates, harvest dates, and soil organic matter agent, and pest control, and planting method. Then I think the poor emergency rate and total yield will be improved automatically. So our target is, our tuber per plant target is over 10, but if we calculate it based on harvested plant, then tuber per plant is 6.4. So this is not our target, and we can say the result was not great. And the emergency rate is 58.9, which is also poor. So we have to improve these things. So first of all, I want you to see the sowing date and harvest date of this year. You can also check the temperature during plantation. When our seed potatoes were planted, the minimum temperature was -4 degrees Celsius and maximum was 16 degrees Celsius. I think the maximum temperature was okay, but it seems better if we can raise the minimum temperature during plantation. So I searched the weather information and I made the last 5 years temperature graph of Astore area. The orange color shows maximum temperature, blue is average, and the gray is minimum temperature. So this is our sowing date, and the minimum temperature shows less than -5 degrees Celsius on the sowing date. In this year, the minimum temperature was -4 degrees Celsius, but still it is not good for the initial potato buds. So, however, if we can delay the sowing date for about 1 month, then the temperature will be around 0, which is better than -5 degrees Celsius. But then we should also consider the harvest date, as sowing date is delayed. In general, harvest date is delayed by half as much as the sowing date is delayed. This is the date we harvested this year, and if we delayed it for about 15 days, then the middle of August would be the expected harvest date. It looks like the temperature goes down a little bit, but it doesn't look like it would have a significant impact on crop yield. I also checked not only temperature but also precipitation and accumulated temperature, but it seems like there's not significant difference of those factors during delayed dates. Of course, we have to consider many other factors furthermore, but if there's not much difference in the other factors as well, delaying sowing date and harvest date seems like a good way to improve the total yield. As you already know, the young potato buds are very soft and vulnerable. So even if it is just around 5 degrees Celsius, it will be very helpful for the initial stage of growth. So the first suggestion is delaying the sowing date and harvest date for about 1.5 months. And and I think we must prepare for the cultivation plan based on the past data and information from now on, because we are scientists. I have seen that we made cultivation schedule without any scientific evidence, but we just made the cultivation plan with depending on our experience. But we have to use the scientific evidence as well. So I think these two things are what I want to suggest of the sowing date and harvest date, like cultivation schedule. And second factor is about soil organic matter agent. Actually, this is not about the yield improvement, but this is about the cost problem. For the Astore seed multiplication, we used 30 bags of peat moss, and it cost about 320,000 rupees. But if we had purchased compost and used it, it would have cost 45,000 rupees, which is 7 times cheaper than peat moss. And if we had produced compost on our own, it would have cost only 15,000 rupees, which is 21 times cheaper than peat moss. I'm actually not sure how well the peat moss work as soil organic matter agent, because I haven't seen any farms using peat moss in Korea due to the cost problem. I assume that peat moss didn't make such a dramatic difference compared to compost when I saw our last harvest performance. Then I think there's no reason to use peat moss, so I think we have to change the organic matter agent from peat moss to compost for our sustainable development. I know we all are hoping that our system will continue to function well after we finish our project, like without any aid. In order to achieve this goal, I think we have to think about the cost problem on every activity so that it can continue for a long time. And the third factor that we can improve is plant protection. Particularly, I found there was some pest damage on the tubers. I found that there was just little damage by disease, but there was some damage from insects. I'm not an expert in pest, so I didn't really know what this insect was. So I asked two Korean pest experts, and he replied it looked like a beetle larva. This beetle larva is well known as curl grub, which usually attacks lawns. But it attacks not only lawns but also potatoes. So even though I found some pesticide, especially for this insect, but I think we need to ask about this to a pest expert because I don't really know about this. And I also want to ask to the experts if we can treat a little bit more dose of pesticide unlike general dose, because our seed multiplication doesn't go for food directly, but it goes for multiplication again. And the fourth factor is about planting method. First of all, I want to suggest using mulching for the next cultivation. Mulching has various functions such as stabilizing soil temperature from cold and heat stress, and soil erosion protection, and water conservation, etc. Like this, many scientific articles show that how well the mulching affect on the crop yield. In this figure, figure A shows a correlation between yield and mulching. B shows a correlation between water use efficiency and mulching. And C shows a correlation between evapotranspiration and mulching. It is obvious that mulching can raise the crop yield according to this article. And there are also so many articles which are saying that mulching has a lot to do with protecting the cold stress. This figure is about the effect of temperature maintenance by mulching. We can see the difference between any type of mulching and control significantly. Mulching is also very common in Korea. In Korea, Korean farmers plant potato in minus temperature as Astore. but still they can get high yield because they control the initial cold weather by using mulching. Thus, I think we have to consider using mulching. And second thing that I want to see in the planting method is sowing depth. I found that the potato roots were formed in the upper space of soil in Astore. As you all know, usually in the upper part of soil, there are not enough nutrition resources and water that plant can uptake. According to an academic article, the favorable depth range of potatoes is 50 to 80 centimeters. In addition, the Astore's greenhouse soil was sandy and the fertility looked very poor. We have to do an exact soil analysis though. Anyway, it is like we force potato to be healthy but giving them just little food and water, and even like the food has low nutritional value. In the planting method, I suggested using mulching for the temperature control, and the sowing depth should be deeper than last cultivation. And actually, I heard from Dr. Kazim that the seed quality was very poor for the last cultivation because some mechanical problems on the seed storage. I can't mention about this problem properly because I've seen only harvest field. But if it is true, I think we have to find some good ways to solve these storage problems as well, like monitoring or fixing regularly. So by enhancing those factors, I believe that the poor emergency rate and poor yield problem can be improved. As I mentioned earlier, you all know a lot more than me, so please share your ideas when we discuss after this presentation. So in summary, we've seen 4 factors. I suggested delaying the sowing date and harvest date first so that we can help and protect the initial growth stage of potato buds. Second, I suggested changing organic matter agent from pit moss to compost for the cost problem. Third, I suggested finding an optimal pesticide treatment method and asked to a pest expert about this. And fourth, I suggested mulching, deeper sowing, and soil management. I believe that there are far more ways to improve the total yield. So I hope we can get some good solutions when we discuss about this. And actually, I prepared some ways to improve the sampling method, but it was not good enough for me to presentate yet. So I'm going to make a presentation about the sampling method improvement next time. So this is all. Thank you.
Next time me